Okay, we're looking at an example using a table for a function defined in two variables. So the cost of renting a car is going to depend on both the number of days you rent it for and how far you drive, the number of miles. So they go ahead and define our function c, being the cost, is going to be represented by d comma m. All right, so we have two different inputs. D is going to be the number of days and m is going to be the number of miles. So it's important as we read this that we know that the first value is going to be d, days, and the second value is going to be m, miles. So looking at this table, they go ahead and they do define this to be d is going to be the values going down for each one of these rows, and m is going to be the values going across for each one of these columns. So let's try to answer a few of these questions to go along with this. What's the cost of renting a car for 3 days and driving it 200 miles? So that would be c is going to be 3 for our days and 200 for our number of miles. So as we look at this table, let's think about that. As we get going, that's going to be the number of days is going to be 3, and the number of miles is going to be 200. So lining that up, as you can see, this works out to be $150. All right, so $150. Based on our table, let's see if we can answer the next questions as well. All right, so what about the cost of 100 comma 4? So 100 comma 4 is a little bit different. This is saying 100, remember that first value is in days and the second one was in miles. So this is kind of an odd situation that you would be renting a car for 100 days but only driving it for 4 miles. Based on our table, we don't have 100 days laid out. Right? Our number of days only goes up to 4 on our table. It doesn't go all the way down to 100. So in this case, we cannot answer this question. I would say based on this, it does not exist. We'd not be able to rent a car for 100 days and only drive it for 4 miles. But what about if we switch it around? What about the cost for 4 days and 100 miles? So in this case, we'd be looking at 4 days and 100 miles. Looks like that's going to cost $175. All right, one last question here. What about, we suppose we were going to rent this car for 3 days, only going to keep it for 3 days. Is C going to be an increasing function of miles? All right, so in this case, we're saying the cost for 3 days, but our number of miles changes. So we're fixing the number of days, so we're only looking at this row. And then we're going to be comparing these values as our number of miles increases. So as we go from 100 to 200 miles, our cost goes from 135 to 150. And as we continue increasing, we're going to go to 165, and then finally up to 180. So in this case, we would say, yeah, our cost does increase based on the number of miles. So we'd say, yeah, it is an increasing function based on the number of miles. Hope this helps as you're trying to read tables for functions in two variables.